Hey guys, I'm here to give you a quick TLDR version of how do I play Frost. Alright, so pretty much with Frost, we're going to start with the opener. I'm going to go in Ebon Bolt into Icy Veins, which is off the global cooldown, into a Brain Freeze proc, which is procced by Ebon Bolt. And when you cast that Brain Freeze proc, it'll put Winter's Chill on the target, which will treat it as frozen, which gives us a high amount of crit for that small little window. Doing this makes it so that way your Ebon Bolt should crit if you have high enough crit. 33% is the shatter cap, so if you're somewhere around there, it has a very high chance of critting. The Flurry travels faster than the Ebon Bolt, so that's why it causes that, and the Icy Veins in between there buffs everything by 20% when you cast it from the Chill to the Core artifact talent. So then directly after that Flurry, you want to use a Ice Lance, and that'll hit that window as well for Winter's Chill. Then after that, depending on which talent you have, if you have BC, you can go into Water Jet, dump your procs, and then Frozen Orb. If you have Lonely Winter, then you just dump your procs and go right into Frozen Orb and start going. Alright, so I'm going to start it off and kind of just work right through it. So there's Ebon Bolt, Icy Veins, Flurry, Ice Lance, then we'll go into my Water Jet, and I'm going to start casting my Frozen Orb. So I always want to make sure that I get rid of my my Fingers of Frost procs before I cast my Brain Freeze procs, just because of that Winter's Chill debuff. It treats it like it treats an Ice Lance that's not a Fingers of Frost proc going into it as it's a Fingers of Frost proc. So if I have any Fingers of Frost up, I want to make sure that I cast them before casting the Brain Freeze proc. So yeah, it'll just treat it as a frozen target, and it'll be a high crit like a Fingers of Frost proc. So that's very beneficial to us, and we want to make sure that we can get that off as much as possible. The combo that we use is pretty much when we have a Brain Freeze proc, dump all your procs, all your Fingers of Frost procs, use a Frost Bolt into the Brain Freeze proc, and then use a non-FOF Ice Lance directly after it. Flurry again travels faster than the Frost Bolt, so that Winter's Chill debuff is up on the target, and your Frostbolt, if you're about 10 to 15 yards away, will hit second. So your Frostbolt will gain that crit from the Winter's Chill, and so will that Ice Lance directly following up on it. So that gives us a couple of things. The Frostbolt that crits will lower our cooldown on Icy Veins, and you'll also get that FOF proc, well, that acts like an FOF proc afterwards. A big question that everybody asks a lot is, what do I do if I'm casting a Frostbolt and I'm doing that combo and all of a sudden I gain a Fingers of Frost proc during that time? My answer is typically you just want to keep going through the combo and use the Ice Lance. Just ignore the fact that you have an FOF proc. You should be going into the combo with no procs at all besides Brain Freeze, so you go Frostbolt, Brain Freeze, Ice Lance. If you gain an FOF proc during that Frostbolt, just keep going through it. Frostbolt, Brain Freeze, Ice Lance. It's unfortunate, but hey, what can you do? The only way you could probably change a little different is if during Frozen Orb, you could not cast that Frostbolt beforehand, and you kind of lessen the chance that you get a Fingers of Frost proc while you're doing that Brain Freeze into Ice Lance. The only way this changes is if you have the gloves and the bracers. Those two legendaries make it more beneficial for you to have as many Fingers of Frost procs as possible and do as much damage as possible, because you're getting more procs and they're doing more damage. So in that case, going back to that scenario of doing the combo, you're casting a Frostbolt, you're going to go into your Brain Freeze and Ice Lance, but as you're casting that Frostbolt, you get a Fingers of Frost proc. You want to hold off on the Brain Freeze proc, cast Fingers of Frost, and then go into the combo again. You want to keep doing that until you can actually get a clean one. I mean, sometimes it'll proc right before it, but hey. That's pretty much it. Again, you can do the Frozen Orb thing where you just cast a Brain Freeze into an Ice Lance and not worry about casting Frostbolt during that time, just because those procs are kind of unpredictable, and you do have a fairly high chance of getting them. Aside from that, for the rest of the fight, it's pretty much just casting your things on cooldown. You want to cast your Ebon Bolt on cooldown, your Water Jet on cooldown if you're BC, your Frozen Orb on cooldown. And like say you have 20 seconds left on Icy Veins, it's okay to hold off on Frozen Orbs. That way you get those procs coming up when you get your Icy Veins. And aside from that, I mean, if you are gonna Blizzard things, it's beneficial to use it on 2 targets or more. That pretty much is a gain. It will lower the cooldown on Frozen Orb, so that's definitely beneficial. And if you plan on blizzarding, I would recommend taking the Arctic Gale talent, so that'll increase the damage and its area effect. So that save magic is strictly for a single target. Aside from that, I'm not going to get too much more in depth. Just kind of like I said, a quick TLDR guide. If you want a more in-depth guide, I have another video out. It's about 47 minutes long, and I go into pretty much everything I can think of. You can find that in my videos, and I also have a written guide you can find on the Altered Time forums. But I think I'm going to leave it at that for now, so thank you for watching, and enjoy.